What's up, guys? I'm gonna skip that intro. I know I didn't put that intro on there, but we need to update that. Guys, thanks for joining us today. We're going live. This is a live shoot today. I'm actually changed up the environment a little bit. Usually I'm shooting in front of the desk, but actually we set up here in the shop today. So hope you guys like it. Better visual of me, not just me, but I'm just saying just a better visual period because all we saw was a white wall. Guys, thanks for joining us. We're gonna wait before I get into this. Most of my lives, guys, if this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, we got live chat coming up, as you can see here in the chat box. We had somebody ask about, guys, we're mostly Central Time. We're in Texas, but thanks for joining us. Guys, we're gonna be talking about the Rockstars of the diesel engine, of what they did, and I wanna go through a couple of things. And before we go into depth, I just kind of, as I mentioned, most of my lives are going to be like this. We're going to have people come on, ask questions. We just got a subscriber. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers, guys. So we're pretty excited about 10,000 subscribers. I know I am. That means we're able to launch merch. So I appreciate everybody joining us today. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the Rockstars of the diesel engine, all right, and what they do, who are they, the three characters that I put up on the thumbnail. The first one we're talking about is going to be Diesel, Mr. Diesel himself, Rudolf Diesel. He's an engineer or an inventor. I'm going to do a share screen real quick so that you can see who I'm talking about, but I'm going to pull this up. This is the first guy. Rudolf Diesel. He pretty much, and I'm gonna read some notes because I don't want to miss anything. I'm not gonna go into detail, but there's just some interesting information that I was able to see on this. Of course, I don't usually script these lives. I'm usually just shooting off the bat, but I may start scripting them. But the information that I found on this guy was very interesting. Okay, so he develops the first diesel engine back in 1892. Okay, so he's working with MAN, which is a German engineer company, and this is in 1892. Okay, so he designs the first compression engine. If you don't know about diesel engines, they're not like a gasoline engine. They basically use high compression. And when the compression gets compressed very fast, the air gets very hot. So what they'll do is they spray diesel. Back then, the first engine that he designed was actually ran off coal dust and vegetable oil. And it's interesting because in the 1900s, okay, this is a long time ago. 8 years later, after he invents it, of course, he patents it, basically. That means no one else can do it in Germany. And he was working for a company, MAN, is basically, they still produce engines now, but mostly they're for ships. They do bigger engines, ginormous engines. But they're still in the diesel manufacturing industry. And back then, most of these engines were just used for farming use, turning mills, grinding, just most of the manual labor. Wherever they can fit these engines is what they would be using them for. And so when he showcased this engine back in the 1900s, he was basically showing them that it can run off coal dust, and it would also run off vegetable oil. So that's very interesting to me because you think about that. Let me go back to share screen. Let me go back to regular live here. So you think about that, vegetable oil. So these engines were able to burn on vegetable oil. Think about where we would be now. What's up, transport? Think about where we would be now if we took that path down vegetable oil. And it's crazy. Okay, so 1912, he really starts pushing vegetable oil. A year later, he ends up getting, and this is mysterious because you can't find any information on him, but he ends up dying, and it's a very mysterious death. There's not a lot of information about what happened to him, which was very interesting to me because the engine that was actually held by MAN company ends up getting designed to only be able to work on petroleum, which ends up being diesel. So diesel ends up going in production, mass production, and here we are getting everybody, supplying an engine that can run off diesel. So everybody was really happy about this. What's up, Jason? Thanks for joining us. This is a new, like I said, I'm shooting this in the shop, guys, so we can get a little bit more visual on what's in the shop. This is a diesel, actually a DD15, I'm sorry, a 60 series, trying to get ahead of myself, but this is a 60 series that we're installing. on a customer, Titus. He's probably watching if he saw this engine. But we're just waiting for a couple of more parts right now. These 60 series are a little bit tough to get parts on anywhere to get parts right now. It's tough. So back to Rudolph ends up getting murdered off or mysteriously passes away. Petroleum ends up coming the first diesel, or the engine that actually fuels the engine. I apologize. And on they forget about him, and it ends up going on. And it's not until the next guy I want to talk about, and I was excited when I saw all this information. Honestly, it was kind of inspiring to me, because I feel like it kind of motivated me to do more in the diesel industry and what we can do, because we go back to what Randolph did with vegetable oil, and it's very interesting how that engine was running on vegetable oil. And when he showcased it back in Paris, in the 1900s, think about this. Farmers were actually able to grow their own fuel, whether it was running on vegetable oil or it was running on peanut oil, which is very interesting, because think about the emissions that it would happen. I mean, there would be no emissions to me, I would think there would be no emissions if we kept running on that route. And then for him to mysteriously get off like this, and then the engine gets mass produced for a diesel, it's just very interesting to me that never picked up. And now look at us now 100 years later, and we're trying to figure out ways to cut down on the emissions. Like, the emissions is causing too much pollution, and what they're developing now is just causing the engine to work a lot harder. Everybody knows this. This is why we have problems with the after treatment systems. And there's really no choice right now. And this is why I say, when I looked into this information, and it really kind of inspired me to do more with basically what we're doing right now. We're repairing trucks. That's good, but I feel like we can do more when it comes to either helping with development, further develop a solution. Because a lot of these, what I read is most of these manufacturers are invested in electric trucks. Now, you think about electric trucks are still going to cost a lot to charge them. The energy is still going to be high. The amount of energy we're going to be using is still going to be needed. It's going to be in very high demand. The amount of material we're going to need to build out our electrical grid that big, to be able to, instead of fuel stations, they're going to have charging stations. It's going to be a lot of investment. So I'm wondering, I'm not sure if vegetable oil is our solution, but I think there might be some more solutions instead of going electric truck or keep adding these things. So another guy I wanted to mention, he's part of the thumbnail as well. Sorry to get off subject. Is Clessie Cummins. Okay, now this guy was from Indiana. This is probably the first diesel engines that started making it into the U.S. I'm going to show you just a profile picture of him. Let me do a share screen real quick. I'm not sure how you guys responded. So this is him. This is Cummins. He grew up in Indiana. I'm going to go ahead and look at some notes because I don't want to miss anything. He grew up in Indiana. This is in the 1900s. Okay, and in 1990 is when he develops. So this guy grew up basically rubbing shoulders with a lot of wealthy people. He grew up, getting some good education. He was able to rub shoulders with a man named Irwin, which was basically a financier who was financing like the automotive industry at that time. So, he ends up meeting this guy. He's got a lot of experience. He was in the cars a lot. He wanted to come up with his own engine. Basically, he comes out with his own engine in 1912, and I'm going to show you a picture of it. It doesn't look like any other Cummins you see now. So these are the first design engines. These are the first engines that and basically they were bulletproof. You couldn't, there was no emissions controls on this thing. That was the last thing. But like the max RPMs on these things were like 200 RPMs. And it's crazy because when I mentioned MAN, and they're the ones who still mass produce diesel engines, but they do also mostly ships. And when you look at the big, the enormous ship engines and how they actually run and how many RPMs they actually need to create power, they're very low. I think their max power is like 75 RPMs, but the cylinder is so huge that amount of force is ginormous. So anyway, this is the first Cummins. They use it as I mentioned. They use them in printing presses. They would wrap a big belt around it so it can spin stuff, and this is what they would use, and they liked it. Cummins when diesel engines were first. I'm gonna come back to the regular screen, guys. When diesel engines were first invented, feels like I'm sitting in history class. I'm sorry, I know this is probably boring, but this is something that really interests me, so I was wanting to share it in my way. Sorry if we're going too far back, but it's just interesting how Cummins was the first one to start bringing diesel engines in the United States, because in the way that he did it, and I'm gonna fast forward. So I'm gonna fast forward here. So he ends up getting financed with this financier Erwin, growing his engine business. I think his demand was like 300 engines. They could only produce like 15. And it was, they were getting there. And at the time I appreciate it. I appreciate that transport. I appreciate that kind of throwing me off, but I'm trying to keep it more engaging. I was pretty excited about learning about this. So anyway, Cummins is in the industry already. They're making engines. They're not putting them in cars yet. They come up with a pretty bulletproof engine. It's a pretty solid engine. But around that time, I think it was in 1920. Let me look this up real quick. Let me go back to the first engine that they had. We already saw that, but they basically come up with and I don't wanna pronounce this engine wrong. It's so old. Model U. It's a Model U, and then he put it in a 1926 Packard, because at this time, let me tell you right now, in 1929 is when the stock market crashed. A lot of these automakers were really getting in a bad position. So at that time, his financier pulls out. He's like, you know what, Cummins, I can't fund you no more money. This is it. So Cummins is 10 years into this business, and he's about to go. He ain't got no money no more. The stock market crashes. The demand is gone. There's engines are not being produced. What does he do? He enters in an Indy 500, puts a U model engine in the car and showcases it. And on Christmas Day, he actually shows it, goes back to his financier, the guy that's actually funding him money, goes back to him on Christmas Day and shows him, hey, you know what? I just put this diesel engine in a car, and I'm going to drive it all the way to New York. And this is what he did. He basically marketed, got into the newspaper. He noticed the newspaper wasn't giving Cummins a lot of publicity back then. The newspaper was the only way. It was like social media. So he does this, and I don't know. It was very controversial on how he got in the car into the Indy 500, because he was supposed to go at a certain amount of speed, but he was actually able to. He basically said, "Hey, this car is going to run all day," and they were able to basically promote the durability of diesel engines. And when that happened, of course, the war ends up happening after this. World War I happens, and it was all these countries were just trying to rush to see who can produce the biggest, baddest engines or equipment. It ends up starting to get into tractors, and they use these engines all over the place. He was the first one to start using Cummins engines to start hauling across the United States freight. And what's crazy about this, I'm going to tell you something right here. I'm going to tell you what it cost, because it's nuts. Right now, you can't even move freight that cheap right now with fuel. I mean, they moved a freight. They moved freight. Let me see here. Let me find this here, guys. I'm sorry. I had this here. And it was really interesting, man, because basically he runs across state on like $2. He hauls like a couple tons on $2, which is nuts. You cannot even do that right now. They were the most efficient engines back in the day. This is why the diesel engines were produced, because they were the most efficient. I believe they were like 20%, when everything else like gasoline, steam engines, they were all down in like less than 10% efficiency. So the diesel engine really showcased, and it really caught a lot of people's attention. The last guy I want to talk about is Bosch, Robert Bosch. And he was a very educated guy as well. He was an engineer, and this is what I was telling you that really kind of motivated me, because some of these guys didn't have a lot of background when it comes to schooling. You look at Clessie Cummins, he didn't have a lot of background. He came from Indiana. He came from a farm. He just grew up in the right area. He was able to get around the right people. He learned the right skills. And he was able to use those skills for his advantage in the future. He wasn't the first one to come out with the diesel engine. And, Randolph was the first one. Rudolf, was the first one to come out with the diesel engine. But the innovators that keep designing and keep pushing the technology forward is what really motivates me to want to step out even further to figure out what I can do to help with emissions, because it really is just tough that, you know, emissions is doing this to us, or we're having to deal with it, because when you look at it 100 years later, this is where we're at. So when I talk about Bosch, he was a very educated person. He would rub shoulders with the right people, and the way he built his business is he would redesign items that have already been designed. So when his first design that come out, he worked with a lot of different scholars. He worked with Edison, I believe. And yeah, he actually worked with Edison. So he was an inventor as well. So he grabbed somebody's idea, makes it better, an idea that wasn't patent back then. So the idea wasn't patent, so he was still able to use that idea and modify it. Then he patents it, and that was able to launch his business on. And this was back 1900. So, and nowadays he's still using the fuel system. He was the first one to come up with a compact fuel system, because when the diesel engine started getting developed, they started coming with the problem with not able to actually inject enough fuel. The way that they had to do it back then was called air blast. They would use air on top of fuel to blast it into the cylinder, because the compression would be so high that a regular fuel pump wasn't powerful enough. So Bosch was the first one to design a compact fuel system that could handle that type of pressure. And then from then on, as I mentioned, all this is happening right before World War I. These guys are engineering, they're coming up with ideas, they're putting their ideas together, they're trying to come up, and they're innovators, they're inventors, as I said. After World War I, the need for tanks, the need for trucks, the need for freight, everything was just so booming that these guys really just took off. They really took off, and it was really interesting learning that. And as I mentioned, it was inspiring to me, guys. So that's kind of why I wanted to share that with you. I know it was something that was really off subject of something that we usually do, but I'm still here to answer any questions. It's just really interesting kind of to see or to think about where we would have been if we were running on vegetable oil. So I mean, instead of fuel, instead of diesel fuel. And I wonder if that type of technology, if we went to develop more in vegetable oil use and diesel engines, if we would be in a spot where we aren't at now. So it's kind of tough to think about it. And those are the three guys I kind of mentioned, but there's a lot more guys out there. When you think about Caterpillar as well, Caterpillar is a big you know, they contributed a lot to the diesel. But you know, honestly, when I looked at Caterpillar as well, and what's interesting about Caterpillar is they didn't come up with the first track. They actually got that patent. Back then, patents were just, that's it. That was it. If you didn't have a patent on something, anybody can use it. But anyway, they got that patent from Germany, and it's interesting that a lot of this technology, this diesel technology, is coming from Germany. Detroit, I feel like, I know Detroit is influenced by German engineering. Not only that, because they're owned by Daimler. Daimler is basically what's up, transport? May I use the restroom? Hey, yeah, hey man, I'm sorry. Yeah, you know what? This is something I really spiked me, man. I was really inspired by reading about these guys and what they've contributed to the industry. Cummins, coming from a five family, he was like the youngest of five, I believe. And to be able to start Cummins, and everybody, you know, it makes me really look at Cummins in a different way. It sucks that they're having to deal with after treatment systems, and I feel like they have so many people involved in their development. That's probably why they're going through the flaws that they're going through right now. But if you maintain the trucks, I know that they're going to be, the engines are solid. Just as I mentioned in all my videos, all these engines are going to be good engines for you as long as you maintain them, guys. You don't skip out on any of your maintenance, as I said. Fix stuff quick, you know, don't wait for it. You know, I had a customer that had a clutch failure. He had a transmission failure, and the reason why I bring this up, because it was unfortunate. You know, these are big transmissions. Here's a transmission down here. I wonder where GS is today. He's always talking about transmissions, and now we're in the shop. So these are the transmissions, are huge. You know what I'm saying? So if you have an issue with a transmission, especially an automatic, an I-shift, this is what I'm talking about, an I-shift automatic. The load that's going on those clutches, if you're having like gear slippage inside the gear case, is going to put a big load on that transmission or on the clutch, and it's going to end up breaking it. So what ended up happening is the clutch broke. It comes in high mileage, over 1 million miles. We replaced the clutch, and it sucks because he had a broken transmission as well. So, you know, that's a big repair. transmission on a ISX. I'm sorry, on a Cummins. I don't know why I keep talking about Cummins, but Volvo. It was a Volvo truck with a Volvo I-shift, and man, that transmission's high. It's like 10 grand. It's like 10 grand. Why can't engines run on water? Hey, you know what? The in-cylinder approach that I brought up in my other videos with hydrogen, I feel like that's gonna be the answer, man. And honestly, I honestly do. GS will come. He is always late. Yeah, you're right. So this is the transmission tore up. This one's not tore up, but that one that got tore up on that customer's truck. Guys, when you got a truck that's 1 million miles and you haven't did a clutch replacement, more than likely you're gonna have drivetrain issues. Guys, I really enjoyed sharing that information with you. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. There's a lot of information on there that maybe I didn't cover, but I got the most. If you want to research some more stuff about these guys, they're very interesting. But what I really was digging into is where the engine started actually falling into the United States first, and it ends up being Cummins. Detroit comes later. I think they said the 50s is when they came out with their first 4-stroke. And that was a big deal too. Rudolf come up with a 4-stroke engine, which, if you guys don't know what a 4-stroke engine is, that means there's four strokes and one complete revolution. That means you got the intake where it's sucking air down, compression, you got the ignition, it comes back down, that's your power stroke, and then back up is your exhaust, and in the head is where you're opening your intake and exhaust valves to make that happen. 2-stroke is different. They got different areas in the cylinder that's gonna allow the air to enter and get it all completed in 2 strokes. And those engines are more efficient, but they are tougher to build, and this is why. And 4 strokes are just a lot more durable. This is cool stuff to talk about. It is, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that comment, Juan. I appreciate everybody joining. I guess this is pretty much class. I guess I'm the maestro hoy. I'm the teacher today. Having this fuel problem, have Cummins ISX engine, change the fuel filter, and still have hard start with I'm losing light here. The filter, and it still have hard start, and it smooths out and runs fine. Okay, check out your low pressure side. If you got a hard start, usually that's going to be on the low. It could be on the low pressure side. So there's going to be 2 sides to a diesel fuel system. You're going to have the low side and the high side. The low side is what's going to pull the fuel up, and the high side usually is going to stay pretty prime, from the fuel pump up. But if you got any air leakage or anything like that, you might want to get that looked at. You can probably get a leak down test too to see if you're losing fuel pressure at key off, because that's a high pressure system. ISX is going to be a high pressure system. So if it is a 15, is that a 12? That's probably going to be a different fuel system. What kind of fuel system do you have? Cummins changed their fuel system, and Bosch is there too. Bosch is going to redesign the fuel pump. That's what they do. Guys, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you like my live at the location. Transport, you're right, man. You got me kind of worried about getting construction done on time, man. I gotta really whip the GC, man. Gotta get to work, man. Before Caterpillar was Johnson, if I recall right. There are a lot more manufacturers out there. I just kind of started naming the big guys that we use here in the United States. I know some of the guys are from Europe, and there's a lot of different trucks out there. There's Volvos here. I got some Volvos in the shop. Volvos from Sweden. So there's a lot of European influence on diesel engines, a lot. Adam, next week, talk about all the truck manufacturers rise and fall, like Kenworth, Volvo, Freightliner, etc. Who started and when, who succeeded faster. And man, you know what? It's tough when you think about these guys that I mentioned. Bosch, for example, he took somebody's patent, man. Like that's there's not a lot of stuff you can find on this guy. If you look him online, he's gonna have a lot of his company. His company Bosch is what has a lot of videos out there. But if you really dig in deep into it and you follow his way of work back then, he got a lot of experience, and then he goes off and grabs somebody else's design. And I guess back then it wasn't a big deal, but you think about it now, like what's going on with China and the U.S. and how they accuse them of stealing our technology, which they did. if you look at it, and I don't want to like point fingers, but it's the company, the U.S. companies that went over there and shared their technology knew what they were doing. They had to share their technology to have access to their factories and the manufacturing market in China. So China spun it as, hey, you know what, security to our country. I want to know everything, your process, everything, how you're doing for our security purposes. And they ended up, spinning it off and doing their own iPhones. Huawei, I believe. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but that's the Apple of China. And it's odd because before Huawei decided designing their own Apple phones, Apple phones can be used in China. And I had a cousin that visited China probably about a year ago. This was before the pandemic hit, and he was telling me how his iPhone wasn't working, and he was forced to buy a Huawei device so that it can be used on his network. So you think about that, and back in the story about Rudolf getting mysteriously dying after he becomes an activist, because after I want to say about 10 years maybe of selling his engine, he was a millionaire. I mean, millionaire. He had a bunch of money already. Let me look at this. I think I'm still on Chelsea, but let me go back to, okay, so in 1900 is when he showcased the engine. 10 years later, he's a millionaire. He becomes an activist, and that's what a lot of the rich guys, this is what they'll do if they come where they have so much excessive money. If you look at Bill Gates, they start wanting to help people and become philanthropists and want to help out the environment and look at the bigger picture. And that's where he was at that point. He was at that point where he already made enough money, and he was wanting to do something different when it comes to the environment. People weren't even thinking green back then. Green wasn't nothing, not even nothing back then. They would laugh at you now. But green is something big. This is something that's probably not going to go away. It's not going to go away. Thanks for the videos, Adam. Best channel on YouTube. Great information. I really appreciate that. We're almost there to 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to be showcasing these hats. Hopefully we can get these hats out to you guys fast enough. I get a lot of requests on the hats. Rudolph dies after exposing his engine, can run off peanut oil. Yep. Truth seeker and speaker. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, that's what I found. And you know what? There's some other information that I found out that it's all conspiracy back then. They can barely record. The recording is better now, but back then technology, they didn't have iPhone, they didn't have phones, they didn't have cellular devices, they didn't have internet. Imagine how hard it was back then. This, when Randolph found out that, or when Chelsea found, got a little. Let me get this back on here, guys. Sorry about that. I'm using a different camera, so I forgot that this one times out. The engine in the back, if someone lightly bumps into it, is gonna tip over. How secure is it? Oh, this is how PSL tells you to put the engine. It's secure on the flywheel. It's secure on the flywheel, and it's secured here in the front. I mean, that's a heavy engine. If you push it over, you can make it fall over. Yeah, I mean, if you push it over, but a fan blowing on it, or somebody pushing on it, I mean, you gotta really get down and push that engine over, man. It's not going to be easy to push that engine over. It's heavy. But this is where, I mean, you think about it, heavy. Diesel engines are known to be heavy. This is why they never got into aviation, because of their weight. But yeah, no, it's not going to fall over. But I appreciate you asking about that. I'm not going to let that fall over. But we're finally getting this truck in. This guy was the one that I shared about the delete EGR issue, that it was a bull gear issue. It ended up being, the engine had a lot of miles on it. It's over 1 million miles. He did do a delete on it. I'm pretty sure that didn't help it. I got a lot of, people were, oh, that wasn't from the delete and stuff like that. But, talking about deletes is cool because, we go back to what this is based on today. And this is what we're having to develop now, which is not healthy for the engine. Everybody knows this is not healthy for the engine. Everybody knows that if it wasn't for the after treatment systems, imagine where the engine would be now. I don't know. We would probably be running high. I mean, who knows? Who knows what we would be? But then again, there'd probably still be 60 series. We would probably be still with 60 series. I don't know the DD15 would have happened. Maybe the DD15 was forced, and that's what's happening. And this is what's interesting. I wonder where we're going to be in the next 100 years. I feel like hydrogen is more going to be an answer for us because of the in-cylinder approach of, the combustion is actually completely igniting all the diesel, because that's what it is. When you have diesel that's not completely ignited, that's what the soot is. And if there's different types of the contaminants. You got NOx, you got particulate matter. All these are contaminants, and this is with the big black smoke you see, and it's cool, but it is harmful to the environment. But I think we could probably come up with a way where we could probably make more power off of these engines, but probably look more of an in-cylinder approach. And that's what I was pretty interested in. So when we talk about, and I know I'm looking back at your question for Truth Seeker, your statement. It's very interesting. It's very interesting that they say that, because they also said and I'm going back to his, I don't mean to keep ranting, but I'm going back to his comment that he says that Rudolf dies after he exposed the engine can run off peanut oil. And think about who's going to expose what hydrogen is going to do to engines. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when other people get exposed, if that's really going to happen? So who knows? Very interesting stuff to me. Today, guys, I'm probably not going to be running a full hour and a half, because I noticed those are pretty long videos. They're very tough to shoot. Just going off the bat like that, I get gassed out. And I still have actually shootings to do today to finish up. We got some more videos that are coming out for you guys. I had a guy that came in with a turbo failure, and he had some after treatment problems. So we're working on getting through that. And it sucks because he finally come to us. I know he visited some other shops, and the other shops were doing a lot of repairs on the after treatment systems. And if you look at my videos, I basically mentioned that if you're having issues with the engine, a clogged EGR valve, a clogged EGR cooler, EGR valve incorrect, a lot of soot being built up in the intake system when it comes to pressure sensor readings. The ECMs depend on a lot of information from the sensors. So if you got clogged intake sensor, if you got a clogged differential pressure sensor on your EGR, that's going to open and close your EGR and your turbo VGTs all at different times. So if any of those components are clogged and not working correctly, you could have issues with after treatment systems. This is always why I talk about you got to troubleshoot the engine first. Troubleshoot the engine first to make sure that the engine is not what's producing excessive soot, because if you are producing excessive soot in the engine, you can replace one boxes all day. You can put brand new one boxes right out the box, shipped from wherever they come from. I mean, it's still gonna be the same thing. And this is what happened to this customer. He comes in and we found a turbo issue, and it sucks because we have to replace the turbo. And I'm gonna release that video later this week. It's a pretty cool video because one of my technicians found it, and he's a pretty good guy, very good guy, got a lot of experience. He had the turbo running with the exhaust pipe off, and he's running a turbo, and it's sounding bad, man. It just sounding bad. And he's like, man, look at this. He's put his hands in front of the turbo, and if you know how a turbo works, it's gonna suck air on one side of the turbo and create pressure and push it into the intake. The actual part of the turbo that's supposed to be sucking air is actually puffing air out. Pop, 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 pop. And it's making this weird noise, and it was a low DTC. When he came in, it was an inactive DTC. It only had like 2 or 3 DTCs for VGT turbo, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes you're gonna have a fault that, depending on what the program is looking for, if it happens so many times, then you're gonna have an actual fault. Sometimes what they'll do is widen those fault counts so that you don't have so many maybe false counts. But he did have high fault counts. I would say 4 inactive. We troubleshoot that. He found the turbo. We replaced the turbo, but unfortunately, we're still gonna have to do some work with this, because, as I mentioned, the VGT turbos is what's gonna be working and controlling and making the mixture of the air and fuel so that you can make the right amount of NOx. And if you don't have the right mixture, you can make excessive NOx. So when you're making excessive NOx, you're gonna have build up on your intake sensors. You're gonna have faster. That's gonna be more expedited. Is you're gonna have build up on your intake sensors, build up on your differential pressure sensors, and when that happens, of course, you're gonna have wrong readings. All this information is fast. You know, the ECM's reading all this information fast. I just should do some videos. I should shoot some videos of an actual engine running, and you can see the rockers. I mean, it's very fast, very fast. So for a computer to be able to take that information, make those adjustments needed to cut that NOx down, man, the technology is just. I mean, think about what the inventors were. They didn't have any idea of what the engines would be dealing with now. In Europe, yeah, that's a V10. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Scania. That Scania stopped the EGR in the new trucks. I wonder how they're doing the in-cylinder approach. I wonder if they're still meeting EPA. I had a comment here from Fred. He made a statement from a Scania, and I'm probably pronouncing that incorrect, but I know what engine that is. It's a large V-shape engine. And it's used mostly in Europe, and they use them on those cab over trucks that we don't use here. But they're very stout engines. I had one of my viewers on one of my first videos when I first started YouTubing. He put up there. He was like, "Man, check out this. Check out this is real diesel power." You know, he was like, you know, and of course he's from Europe, and you know, it's just think about that. That's where diesels actually originated from. So we may be behind. Over here in the States when it comes to diesel technology. Who knows? You know, everybody, it's just a race. R&D, which is research and development. There's a lot of companies that spend a bunch of money on research and development, and that is just coming up with newer ideas for, you know, coming up to advance what's going to work, what's not going to work. Why I don't see runaway engines anymore. They were fun to watch. Probably because it may be not that easy for runaway engines to happen anymore. So like I mentioned, they're gearing the engines to run more on a high pressure fuel system, and I have seen some runaway engines, but people are more cautious about letting that happen because just, you know, having that happen is not fun. You don't want that to happen. Looks like I just received a subscriber. Guys, I know most of you guys are probably subscribed to me already, but do me a favor and share my videos so that I can get more subscribers. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm excited about the new videos that we're going to be releasing. I got the DD13 head that I did a live. I used a thumbnail on the live and when I talked about corrosion, but that was actually a pressure test that we did on a DD15 Cummins. I'm sorry, a DD15 Detroit, and it was a pretty cool video, and I can't wait to get that out. So whatever happened to steam engines? Are those possible to come back to the future? I don't think so, Juan. Those are very inefficient engines. They use a lot of coal and a lot of heat. So the coal is what their primary fuel was, and it used a lot of coal. And where everybody's going now, they don't want to burn coal. They want a cleaner solution. So I don't think that's gonna come back. Hey Fred, I'm sorry. I'm gonna look that up, man. If they're getting rid of EGRs, I wonder if they come up with a solution already. Maybe a solution's already been come up and we don't have to get rid of diesels, because I honestly, as much as electric trucks sound fun, I just, you know, I don't know. I think there's a lot of work to be done on electric trucks. You know, as I mentioned, you know, the problem with having to fuel or recharge those trucks is going to be a headache and the time and a lot of money. Why I don't see, okay, I don't like International with Navstars. Figured a Cummins should be a better. Cummins is not a bad engine, guys. I'm going to keep hitting this button here. Cummins is not a bad engine. They've been around the industry for a long time. It's just they're trying to meet these EPA standards, which is unfortunate that they have such failures that they're having. You know, you look at back their older engines, and everybody praises the older engines. Like this 60 series here, on this side, sorry. This 60 series here, this is probably the last 60 series that was produced. But the only thing I don't like about these earlier 60 series or late model 60 series is they started to bolt on the EGR systems. The engine wasn't designed to work. It was kind of like backwards designing it. They just started bolting stuff on and then seeing what it did. And I just noticed a difference when they started taking material out of the head so they can have the engine run cooler or try to keep the head cooler because they were pushing more EGR gases inside the engine. You know, it became a lot less durable, and I think that's what we're having now. We're having to find that balance between durability and efficiency, which is not easy, guys. I mean, you think about, we still get a lot of power out of these engines, so I'm glad, you know, I'm glad to be part of of what's happening in the diesel industry right now. I'm happy to be part of it. Transport, what's up? I'm gonna come Texas wintertime. Will you give me a job? You have a job, don't you? Love to work with you. Love working trucks and check engine lights. Laugh out loud. When the Facebook group started, yeah, I'm gonna get the Facebook group started. I got a lot going. I want to be careful about adding more things because I want to be able to give everything my attention. Right now, it's the channel. As getting the content out to you guys and making sure that we're able to handle your work when we come in, making sure our processes are in place, trying to keep quality control in place, and that's really where I focus during my week is making sure quality control's in place and being able to spread the knowledge is not easy. Trying to spread the experience. I'm glad to have the guys on my team that I have. We're running ads on looking for other technicians as well. I'm interested I want to attract more people to our industry. I want to attract more people that want to work on engines and further develop what we have going on and be part of what we got going on. There's not enough diesel technicians, man. There's not enough diesel technicians out here. If you look at trucking industry, there's two people that are main and that are shortage right now. Truck drivers and truck technicians. And I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know why guys don't want to be truck technicians. It's not an easy job. Yeah, it's not an easy job, but you can make a good living off of it. You can eat good. You can supply your family. You can support your family. And as long as you're working for the right people, I feel like it makes it possible. So guys, if you watch my channel and you know somebody that may be in the DFW area that's a technician, have them come talk to me. If they're working somewhere that they might not be happy with, if they don't have enough opportunities there, if they're being micromanaged, whatever it could be, have them holler at me. As long as it's less EGR, so we don't have to worry about cooler failure. That's a tough thing. They're doing in-cylinder approaches. That's why I feel like hydrogen, and hopefully I'm saying that right. I wanted to look more into that because it's interesting how, let me sit up straight here. I'm over here slouching. But I'm trying to hit this mic too. So hold on, let me adjust. I don't want to get too low. I'm good. Anyway, just back to, sorry, I lost I didn't really look like how we were slouching over here. Anyway, where was I? You were talking about EGR coolers. I feel like that hydrogen may be an approach because it's actually helping that fuel burn all completely off. And when the fuel's burning completely off like that, it actually runs hotter, a little bit hotter, able to ignite that fuel more like that. It's not going to be a primary fuel. It's going to be an additional fuel. And looking into, when I looked into Bosch and he developed fuel systems and whatnot, and I see a lot of fuel pump failures because a lot of these engines are going over. We all know we're going over to high pressure fuel systems, and that's the new thing is common rail high pressure fuel systems and it's been the new thing. But guys, what I suggest you do is whenever we're moving to high pressure fuel systems, I want you to understand this. It's using fuel. An engine uses oil to lubricate its internals, okay? A fuel pump is the same way. It's like a micro engine that's making pressure. It's got pistons in it, and it's just different forms of making pressure. That's basically what a fuel pump does, and it uses fuel to lubricate it. So I was pretty concerned because I'm seeing a lot of these guys going very long intervals on your fuel filters, and then I see fuel pump failures. Be careful, guys. Don't run these fuel filters, or don't run these fuel filters long. And I was just thinking about this. I had a customer call me throughout the week, and I appreciate you guys that are out of the state and they want to come here and get your service done with us. I really appreciate that. We added some more staff to the office, so if you visit us before and we were a little bit understaffed, we got some more staff in the office. I'm working on getting some more team members that's going to help us help you guys, help service you guys. But you got to understand, there's not a lot of I wouldn't say that there's just not a lot of people coming in for interviews. I'd have 90 applications, and a handful of people want to make it in. It's weird. I don't know why would you apply for something and not even want to show up? But it's fine. I'd rather you not show up. That's not the type of person that TAT Express is looking for. I want people that are eager to work, that want to make a difference in the industry, and are proud professionals that like to work in the trucking industry, and not just, I want to say, slouchers, and I'm slouching over here. I want everything gone. EGR, DPF, gone. It's not going to happen. I mean, it's got to come up with a solution first. I mean, you can't just say, hey, you know what, we got to get rid of this. Think about it. I mean, engines would be very, I mean, I couldn't imagine the power we would get, the fuel mileage we would get if we didn't have to run after treatment systems. But we're not there. We're not there. We're not there. We're going to have to come up with something else. I feel like we can do it, man. There's technology already out there that just doesn't have the, I feel like it doesn't have the audience that it needs and the support. But I feel like if it's done in the right way, just like Clessie Cummins, I mean, look at him. He was about to go out of business after a stock market crash. He does his money supplier decides, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do it. 10 years of being in business, and that happens. And I mean, it's motivating at the same time, because as entrepreneurs, as business owners, you run across troubles that, as an owner operator, there's troubles that you come across that are just originally feel like mountains, but we get past them and we look back and it's like, wow. So just, I mean, it's interesting to you know, go back and think about that. Guys, I appreciate everybody that's joining us. I didn't actually plan to go till 1 hour today, but the 60 series is Cat engine trying to break out. The 60 series is Cat. You know, the 60 series, Detroit was already making engines for a long time. Caterpillar came in and they mostly focus on construction. They originally were like agricultural. And oh, you know, I forgot to share something else with you guys about Clessie. I'm going to go back to that, Cummins. So anyway, Caterpillar basically they buy the patent from Germany on the tracks, and they develop the tractors. And they were the first ones to develop tractors here in the United States, and they pushed hard. And when they came out of World War I, a lot of time, World War I employed a lot of these big manufacturers. They employed a lot because it was a race on who can come up with the biggest, baddest machine on the battlefield. And they were using diesel engines. They were using everything, tracks, everything. Everybody was in a rush to innovate, and we made allies. So Cummins was able to actually export his engines out of the United States. He was one of the first ones to be able to do that. And when that happened, maybe not the first ones, I'll take that back, but he pioneered it. I mean, he exported so many engines and supplied so many engines to the military. They basically gave him an office position in the White House. And this is not a lie. This is Cummins. Cummins, the owner of Cummins, had a seat in the White House because he was supplying so many engines to the military at the time. Okay? Now that's crazy. That's crazy. So, as I said, a lot of these big hitters, these big manufacturers really got their break when the war hit. And the same thing with Caterpillar. I'll go back to Caterpillar. When the war was over, they had all this equipment. What are they going to do with it? By that time, agricultural was flooded by a competitor that Caterpillar had at the time, because they were focused all on military, and agricultural was pretty flooded by, like I said, their competitor. What they do, they went into construction, and that's what Caterpillar ended up doing. So that was a pretty interesting story about that, about what Caterpillar ended up doing. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody's questions here at Transport LOL. Just a turbo to pipe down sounds sweet to me, but we have the EPA, so that's gone now. Yeah, you're right. See, you looking for techs. I'll work for you like 1 to 3 years. I'll work for you for 1 to 3 years. You sound like Bausch over here. Yeah, I need somebody longer than that, man. 2 to 3 years, I'm barely gonna get you like moving, buttered in the shop, man. You know, it takes time to be able to get into a program or get into an atmosphere where there's structure build, learning how it goes, and if you're not experienced on diesel engines, it's gonna take a little bit longer. I don't want you practicing on customers' engines. Juan, what's up? European trucks available to buy in the U.S. and have seen these trucks in person or had chance to work on them. Okay, well, I mean, Volvo's a Sweden truck. That's a European truck. Volvo's a Sweden truck. So is Mack. I mean, that's the same manufacturer. UD is actually, that's gonna be Detroit, but is influenced by Europeans. I feel like a lot of diesel engines are influenced by Europeans. So you think about Clessie Cummins, that when he made his first engine in the 1900s or 1920 or 1912, sorry. I mean, the diesel engine was already patented by the Germans. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of our current engines have a lot of European influence. Shout out to Francisco. What's up? I know Francisco hit us up. Amaya. And also Francisco, my manager. Guys, if you don't know who my manager is, his name is also Francisco Rocha. Man, that guy right there, he will go to the moon and back for you, to be honest with you. So if you want to come into our shop, call us up. We'll schedule you in. If you have issues with the after treatment systems, we'll check you out. Give us some time to check them out, guys. If you're new to my shop and you had this recurring issue, you know, it may take us 1 or 2 visits to get everything right. As I mentioned, the turbo that we had on a failure, that a customer tried different shops, they had the after treatment replaced, ends up being this turbo. He ran that turbo, faulted out like that, so creating soot. So now we have to fix that, and it's unfortunate, guys. And this is why during the weekday, I try to focus on our processes, because I don't want mistakes are going to happen, but I try to minimize the mistakes, and it's not easy when you try to spread that out part of business, and get all these guys taken care of, get all these trucks taken care of. I mean, that's a lot of work here. European truck available to buy. Yeah, I got that. Top-notch transports. Do you think International ProStar are bad trucks? Or do they have a bad reputation because of the Navstar engine? The Navstar engine is bad. It was a bad design. You know, I see some Max Forces. They're not too problematic. I don't see them pretty often. I don't know if they're going mostly to the dealers. We do have software to work on the Max Forces. But they had a bad. It's tough. International had a long reputation. They had a long reputation, you know, and honestly, their reputation is not that strong when it comes to Class 8s right now. So it is tough. It is tough to make a decision on an international. If you get one with another thing I don't like about internationals, and maybe I need some more training on international. I admit that. I don't like their electrical systems, man. They're very problematic. They almost like Volvos, just problematic. You know, when you have an older model engine, older model truck, and you start having wiring issues, it's just problematic. It's not as common on a older model Freightliner or something like that, you know. The equipment side is hurting as well for people. Yeah, right now there's not a lot of construction going on, but I see more movement. I see a lot of movement, and honestly, equipment is just flooded right now. There's too much equipment out there right now. But when I talk to, like, I'm talking to the graders, I talk to the dirt men that are doing all the work at my site. They're busy, man. They're busy right now. And then I talk to the engineers that are pushing through all the permitting through the city, and they're busy. They're busy right now. We see what happens. There's a lot of movement right there right now. So I know that there's a lot of excessive equipment out there. I noticed that in the auctions. I don't buy from the auctions, but I do kind of just look at. Sometimes I'll look at, you know, equipment to see how much equipment is out there, and that kind of gauge the market. I kind of like gauging the market that way. If you kind of see what's out there, if you have like a lot of used trucks out there, then it's usually a good market to buy in. It's a buyer's market. But right now it's pretty much a seller's market. If you're in the market for a used truck, it's not happening. I have rebuilt a few perk cats. They are fun to work. If I'm gonna do a video on these later model or these earlier model engines, like the Cummins, Caterpillars, and Detroits, if you're interested in rebuilding your engine, we can do that here. So I was gonna do a video about that if you guys were interested in redoing your 60 series. This one's almost ready to go. As I mentioned, we're waiting on a few parts. This is not a cheap job, guys. So there are some guys that are doing really cheap end frames in Dallas area, but be careful, guys. You know, the cheap end frames, we try not to do discounted stuff like that, just because, you know, when you bring like used blocks or not, I mean, you can't find a new block, but if you have blocks that aren't being machined correctly, and you know, you got this block looked at by Joe up the street or whatever, and they're not a real machine shop, you know, it's not safe, guys. So I don't want to take shortcuts. Why the newer engines don't have twin turbos like the Cat? They're using the VGT style. That's what they're doing. A twin turbo is used to be able to give power on the low side and high side. So one of the turbos is going to be dedicated for your low end power, and you get your top turbo is going to be boom. That's going to be your, and then they're both going to be working together, but you're creating boost faster. You got less lag. That's why you have twin turbos. You create a lot more power faster, quicker. But with a VGT, the way that they're designing these turbos, I mean, you can make that turbo make extreme pressure off of limited amount of pressure and just grow it from there. So that's why these VGTs are more popular than twin turbos. It's kind of like a turbine, just the way that they control the turbine in the engine. It's the same thing like on a VGT turbo. It's kind of like it was hard for schools to get donations for new engines for class discussions, huh? Yeah, I can imagine. Nobody wants to really invest in R&D, especially if it doesn't seem like it benefits them. These guys getting out here and trying to make differences is gonna be tough. If I follow a guy that does, I follow a guy that does a lot of hydrogen in engines, and he's got a YouTube channel. It's been very long, but the following is very low, and I'm not sure if it's the presentation or just people not wanting to get behind it. But you know, if there was some more investment in that type of development, imagine where we would be right now. Which hydrogen kit do you recommend to add Cummins engines? Please give us your input. I want to do some more information about it, and it's not cheap. It's kind of like I'm gonna do a video. This is scheduled as well about deletes. I want to talk more about deletes. You guys seem to respond a lot about deletes, but what I wanted to mention about deletes in this video that I want to do is about what type of deletes are out there, because all these deletes are not going to be the same. So, and the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of bootleg deletes out there. So I just kind of wanted to mention that. So before I can say anything about hydrogen kits, they're not going to be cheap. And the reason why I brought up deletes, because there are going to be deletes out there that are, you know, that are done, that people, when I see, you know, people commenting on the channel, all my deletes been strong. There are going to be deletes out there that are going to be more on the higher end, and they're more, they got better design, instead of just kind of like, hey, plugging off a sensor and poking a hole in here and putting a weld right here. You know, that's a different class of, you know, delete or elimination. Guys, I do not promote deletes. We don't do deletes here. We don't do any modifications on the after treatment system. So I just want to make that clear. You know, what I would like to look into is these hydrogen kits. You know, they're going to be steep. It's like running an APU, but they're interesting to me. Cat couldn't figure the lack of oxygen of those engines with twin turbos. Twin turbos can make power, but you know, I see twin turbos like on smaller diesel engines, and they do diesel twin turbos on larger platforms like the twins. The V-style, it's just when they do a V-style, V-style diesel engine, a larger one, they'll put turbos on both sides, you know, so that each side is going to have a dedicated turbo to break down the lag. So I think Cat kind of pulled out of the on-highway trucks just because of the regs. I mean, keeping up with the EPA, keeping up. They knew that it was trash. It would trash their engines, and they had enough business in construction. I mean, you look at everything's Cat out there. Adam, what have you changed? Any injectors on these new Volvos? Seems like almost every new Volvo is having inject. You know, you're right, man. You're right. I got power issue ones here, man. I got some ones with power. We just did some cuts on a D16 from a viewer, and I'm glad. If you're watching, thanks for coming by. I know that you used us in the past, and you may have started using another shop, but thank you for coming back. I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity. I share as much as information as possible. I've always been honest with when I do business. We never try to cut corners. We've always been wanting to do everything exactly how it's supposed to be done. And I'm glad you guys are giving us the opportunity to serve you guys, guys that are coming back to us in the area. I really appreciate you working with us. But yeah, a lot of injectors. I don't know why, and then you got to replace them all. You can't just do one injector. It's not like the older engines. You could just slap one injector on there and keep on going. I'm coming soon. Get engine work done. Okay, Alex, I appreciate that. Al Express, I'm sorry. I probably pronounced that incorrect. What's wrong, Al Express? Yeah, Transport's asking you what's up. I'd like to know what's going on too. At Heavy Wrench, EPA is really affecting owner ops. Straight pipes, the money maker. If truck rich, if it just depends on what area you're at, you know. They're probably going to push more, and they're going to probably force these states to push more. If Trump is probably elected, and I don't want to get in politics, but they probably won't be pushing as hard. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm just gonna be honest with you. We'll see what happens. If is that the right approach? Who knows? I mean, it's gonna pay us off now, but I know that I'm not trying to sound like a tree hugger. Everybody wants to make fun of people that are, you know, eating healthy and trying to, live longer and take care of the environment. But my sons, and one of my sons I don't communicate with as much. I wish I did. Hopefully we will patch things up. I don't want to share too much, but my other son, I'm exposed to what college kids are into, and big things right now when it comes to not only millennials thinking about green. It's the new. That's what people like. People want green. These diesel engines are tough, man. This is what's making us the money, but we got to come up with a solution. It's a tough balance between efficiency and durability. So give me the place live. I'll work for you for 25 years. I'll give you a place to live. Transport. I thought you were working for a trucking company already, but if you want to come work, wait till I get to the new shop. I want to make more space. Right now we're limited in the office space because of the construction that happened here. What do you think of Nokia trucks? I seen that. That's going to be the electric trucks, Fred. That's probably what you're talking about. I mean, I'm up for electric trucks. I haven't looked into electric trucks as much because, of course, I'm more diesel. So diesel is mostly where we stay on top of trying to find the solutions for what you guys are dealing with now, because electric trucks is the future, maybe the future. But think about if we come in with an in-cylinder approach and there's going to be zero emissions and we have a durable engine again. Think about if that happens before they have to build out all these electrical grids that aren't built out big enough to charge these trucks. And the hours of service right now is already tight, guys. I mean, imagine it's already tight getting fuel. Imagine having to stop and charge a truck. So think about that. That was me, Ishmael. Okay, that was you. Okay, that was you that came in. I'm glad you came in. Hopefully that's what you meant. Sorry if I'm trying to catch up to everybody's comments. I get kind of caught up in the conversation. True Seeker says, I've been to your shop and you guys are A1. I appreciate that, True Seeker and Speaker. I appreciate that. Yeah, Francisco does a hell of a job, man. Francisco Arocha is our shop manager here, guys. If you haven't visited my shop, he's the one that pretty much runs the location, and he does everything. And I'm very involved in everything that's happening. Even whenever we're getting these check engine lights, we have a group that we message in, and we're constantly researching these codes and the history of these codes and trying to get more information on. It's tough, especially if we have a truck that we don't have a lot of history on. We gotta focus on what's going on with the truck. If it did leave and it had a check engine light, we need to figure out what happened right there. It's not easy, guys. It's not easy to get these engines running optimal. Drive shaft was nasty too. The dealer ran my credit as first time buyer. I qualified for a $75K loan, $11,500 down with $1,500 monthly, 14 interest. Man, mind you, the credit score is 805. That's a high interest for the vehicle. 14%. Was it 1.4% or is that 14%? Because that's kind of high. That's the dealer. I wonder what dealer is that? I'm glad you got in a truck. Right now, trucks are tough to get into right now. I think I lost my spot. My truck is back with y'all. Oh, it is. Okay. Ishmael, yeah, it is. You're the one about the turbo. Yeah, it is here. I have looked over those codes, so we're going to get that figured out. Thank you for bringing it back. But we believe you had some soot build up from running the turbo the way it is, so I appreciate you bringing it back and giving us the opportunity to get it right. I had to pass due to the corrosion. Plus, I'm going for a 2018 Kenworth with Cummins X15. Okay, 2018. That's gonna be the brand new when it comes. And you know what? I started looking more, and you guys started asking me about the X15. I started looking more into it. It's the ISX15. Basically, their in-cylinder approach that Francisco Amaya talked about when he came in on my live. Shout out to Francisco. If you look at that in-cylinder approach, they're using the Jake brakes, and when I think about Jake brakes, they're using the Jake brakes to control the valve, to do that extra exhaust heat coming out to clean the filters. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I forgot to bring this up. After Cummins, saved his company going on this Indy 500, and he ran the car for days. He was able to show the durability, excuse me, the durability. I can't believe I got stuck on that word. Anyway, of the engine, he was able to really, he was done. He was like, man, the business blew up. Grew for a very long time. Engine, the company blew up. 25 years, he decides to, step away from the company. And what does he do? He designs the Jake brake. And I didn't mention that earlier. I forgot about that. But yeah, he invents the Jake brake, the same brake system that we use today, and that's what they're using in the X15. So I know you want that Cummins 15 X15. It came out in 2017. That's a 2018. So hopefully they got everything updated. 60 loan, forgot to mention. Okay, 60 on the loan still at 14%. I feel that like that's kind of high, especially with now the interest rate now is pretty low. Just did an overhaul on a DD15, and a day later I noticed the engine was missing, thinking maybe an injector harness. Code said injector pressure 15, but the code went off. You did an overhaul, didn't replace the injectors. I would have replaced the injectors, especially if you have high mileage on those injectors. And if you did do any injector replacement before those repairs, and you got a brand new engine, man, put some new injectors on that, man. These injectors, the development of the injector is, very, it's got a lot of technology, these new injectors, and they do, like the Volvo does a lot of the pressure is in the injector. You're dealing with, an ISX 15 or even a 15 or even a DD15, very high pressure, man, 30 bar. I mean, huge amount of pressure. I would definitely go with some new injectors. I wonder who would you do the build with. They should have maybe, I know it's not cheap. I understand. It's probably why you didn't do injectors. Love your program. I do feel DD15 repairs in UK. I do a few DD15 repairs in UK. Got good tips from you. Thanks. Benz tractor unit, use them. That's cool. Do I use them? Benz, not as much Mercedes-Benz anymore. But Daimler is Mercedes-Benz, so the DD15 is pretty much a Mercedes engine if you think about it. They're, the same people. Yeah, with the turbo. Yes, sir. Ishmael, we're going to get that fixed for you. I appreciate you coming back. I'm going to check out the schedule. Hopefully we can get on it first thing in the morning and won't keep you down too long. Hey, my father hooked his J-Pro scanner up, and my 07 Volvo with the D11. I remember this guy, Big Josh. Low power issue. The scanner reported low or no ECM to voltage to the ECM and the dash. Could that be a harness in the cab? I would definitely check the circuit, run a resistance test all the way to power going to the ECM. If you have high resistance, the voltage or ground could be bad, and you can get that low voltage. That low voltage to the ECM. Big Josh, check batteries. First Volvo has many problems because of bad batteries, corrosion, or loose connection. Volvos are really problematic with electrical. I know they have to have solid power. If those batteries are old, if they're over a year, you can probably replace them. Clean up your battery connections. Don't forget your starter connections. All that movement, all that vibration over time is going to cause loose connections. And if you get loose connections, even the ground, loose connections, even a loose connection on the ground is going to give you a low voltage fault. So tech equipment, okay. Hey, I took your advice and went and got those injector wires and the cams. I don't know the cam, something taken care of. Okay. Swamp Girl, I wonder what's up. I don't recall that. I get a lot of questions throughout the week, and I appreciate all you guys' support. Thank you guys, everybody that joined us today. Appreciate this live. I'm going to probably go ahead and end this live because I feel like just going too long on these lives, guys. The watch time is not that great on these lives, but these longer lives. But hopefully you enjoyed this. I enjoyed sharing this information. These Rockstars really inspired me to do more in the diesel industry, and I'm gonna commit, and I'm gonna do more, guys. I'm gonna do what I can do to make our difference, make it strong. I appreciate all your guys' support. As I mentioned, if you're already subscribed to my channel, could you share my videos to people that may not be subscribed to my channel so that we can get close to 10,000 subscribers or closer to the goal? Let me look at where we're at right now. Excuse me. I want to look at where we're at right now because we're up there. We're getting there. I never thought we would have this many subscribers, 9.5. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers, and then the next goal is 100K. It's like, then after that's 1 million. That's crazy. Like, I guess I'm happy with what we have already, guys. Hey, you know what? If we don't get another subscriber, I'm happy with what we have already. I appreciate you guys joining us. I'm enjoying, sharing my journey with the new shop and everything that's going on. Well, we got some more questions or more comments here. Adam, through the week, you charge to help over the phone, to talk over the phone. Send me an email. Let me send you. I'm gonna put my email here. I'm gonna put it on the video, guys. Look at the descriptions in some of my other videos, guys. If you call my shop and you want to schedule an appointment or you want to send us some pictures, look at the comments in the video. Or not the comments, but look at the description. Make sure to use that info at TAT Express email. Because we get a lot of calls during the weekday. So if you ask for the email, just check it out in the description. I'm going to put the emails in the description, and, or my emails are in the other videos as well. You can communicate like that. Or if you want to send us some videos from WhatsApp, we use WhatsApp as well. If any of my videos has helped me, hit us up, or help you guys, hit us up on Cash App, # TAT Express. I appreciate everybody that has hit us up on Cash App. I do drink coffee, not often. Actually, the days that I shoot are going to be probably the only times I drink coffee. And I shouldn't, because I'm not that used to coffee. So when I drink, I get really kind of dehydrated. But yeah, hit me up, Transport. I'll help you out. I did add a battery to it. Check the connections, Big John. If it's not the connections, it's possibly you could have a harness. But I would test it first. Test it out. Check the continuity. You're going to need a voltmeter that's going to be able to check ohmage. The black soot on the driver's side, you told me to get and take care of it, and I did take care of that, and then cost me, oh yeah, it's probably exhaust leak, and it depending on what truck, yeah, it ain't gonna be cheap. Not that it's gonna be cheap right now, especially getting these trucks fixed. Adam, pretty soon you will pass Francisco in subs. Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? Shout out to Francisco. Thanks for commenting on the videos or replying back to me on my comments and commenting on my videos. I appreciate you guys. Transport, thanks as always for joining us. Free DEF for everyone when you get to 10K subs. Oh, who's gonna pay for that, man? We don't. I mean, the channel doesn't. Like, advertising doesn't pay a crazy amount of money as people think. But I want to boost the subscriber base up so we can at least try to get merch to you guys. So first it was 1K, it was a mile marker so that we can do lives or something like that. I have to go back and look at it. And then 10 is the mile marker for releasing merch. And I want to release these hats because I get a lot of questions about it. So I'm gonna be releasing hats, mugs, hoodies, and that's at 10,000. That's gonna allow us to get that subs. Ishmael, what's the location on the new shop? I did a live. We were there now. I'm gonna crack the whip this week on the GC, man, because we gotta get that done, man. I might have to pick up a shovel and a pick, and getting the permits through the city and getting everything approved is not an easy task. I feel we lost a lot of time right there. So now it's really just picking up shovels and getting it done, and how much the weather is going to cooperate with Shishmael. So I'm hoping. I appreciate you coming by, and I'm sorry I don't have a built-out waiting room, but the new shop's gonna have built-out waiting room. Hopefully I can get some lazy boys in there and get you a charging station, a TV. I got a TV here, but we don't have a lounging area. I want to get you a lounging area so you guys can probably crash out and take a nap there or something. Adam, I see you in a lot. I see you in a lot of other YouTube videos. Oh, you do? What videos? I wonder what videos you see me in. Are you talking about when you search my videos pop up? Adam, is it harmful for the engine to use your Jake brake as go down? Well, that's what it's made for. Jake brakes are made to, you're using engine brake. As long as you're not like really hard on it, you come soft with it, and you gradually step up with it. Don't get too crazy with it. Jake brakes, the way that Jake brakes work is they keep the exhaust valve from completely opening all the way up. So it's like muffling the engine. Really, to me, it seems like it's going to cause more wear to the engine, to be honest with you. And that's just being honest. I mean, I'm just thinking in theory how a mechanical system is working. And now you have a solenoid that's not allowing that pressure to come up like that. That's going to cause some wear over time. Guys, I wanted to mention back when I was talking about fuel pumps and we talked about Bosch, one thing that I didn't mention, I did look up Diesel Clean. I don't know if you guys use diesel additives, But I remember some guys asking me on the channel. I don't know if you guys are watching, but I remember you were asking me if there's any fuel additives that I would recommend. That is an additive that's approved by Cummins, and I'm not a big fuel additive guy when it comes to breaking items loose in the fuel system so it can clean your system, because where that's going to go, it possibly can go to your injector. So I'll be aware of that stuff. What I did like about Diesel Clean is what they call is Diesel Slick. And what it does is lubricates, it adds more lubrication to the diesel fuel, basically. So it's going to help your high pressure pumps from failure, premature failure, because as I mentioned, they use diesel fuel to lubricate the internals of that diesel pump. So if you have excessive wear in that pump, you can have failure. You'll have failure. Adam, is it harmful? Got that. I'm trying to decide between a 2016 Freightliner with a Detroit or 2016 International ProStar with the Cummins. Any advice? I would probably go with the DD15, but I want to know what the maintenance records look like. I want to look at the truck, if it's got a lot of rust on it, if it's, man, I'm slouching. If it looks, if it looks bad, and look at the maintenance history. If you watch some of my other videos, I always recommend you guys look at maintenance history to make sure that there's some maintenance in place. If there's no maintenance in place, how many miles are there? What's the price? There's a lot of variables, top notch. And I appreciate you guys reaching out to me and asking me the questions during the week. But when I want to make that decision, I kind of take it onto my own shoulders if I'm going to give you the right choice, because I really think about you guys when it comes to stuff like that. And if I give you a bad decision, like, yeah, go ahead and buy that truck, and then it craps out on you, and I don't have any control of it because I don't have the history on it. All I can recommend you do is do as much research and looking into that truck, do the inspections, look at the DOT videos that I release. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this. I had a good time. I went longer than I expected. 16 Series Cascadia in comments section. Appreciate that. Hey, so transport, everybody that's joined us, Big Josh, Ishmael, thanks for joining us, Tony, Frankie, Swamp Girl, everybody. Sorry if I missed you guys. I want to call out everybody. Paul, and what is this from SCLA? What's up, Anthony? Everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm gonna have some more videos. I may be releasing videos on Wednesdays now and Sundays, so I can give you a little bit of more information during the weekday, so it's not that big waiting period, so you can still have some more content to watch. So guys, I appreciate everybody joining us again today. Make sure to share my videos. If you're already subscribed to me, help us get to 10K by sharing my video. I appreciate all you guys' support. Hit me up, transport. I'm going to put my email in the comment section so you guys can hit us up. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it. And until next time, till next week, guys, you guys be safe. I enjoyed today's live, guys. I will see you later.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon. When it rains, it pours. hope you find me.